I have come to the floor today to stop Republican efforts to give Wall Street banks a multi-billion-dollar gift this Christmas. Under the cover of must-pass legislation, big bank lobbyists are hoping that Congress will allow Wall Street to once again gamble with taxpayer money by reversing a provision that prohibits banks from using taxpayer-insured funds, bank deposits, to engage in risky derivatives trading activity. The New York Times reported that Citigroup, a bank that stands to directly benefit to the tune of billions of dollars, authored this provision. Big banks want to use their cheap funds provided by the taxpayer backstop to undercut their competition in a heads-I-win, tails the taxpayer loses scenario. And we know why Republicans want it. The spending bill also quietly allows individuals, such as the big banks, to contribute millions more to their own re-elections. This provision must be stopped.
Allows for another multi-billion-dollar bank bailout and for taxpayers to be on the hook for that, but it gives the keys of the bank to the moneyed special interest by allowing up to $800,000 to be contributed by one person to the Democratic and Republican Party committees.
Are we trying to balance the playing field for people who happen to be born in a zip code full of poverty? No. But what we're doing as a condition of keeping government open is deciding that the one thing we have to do is to make sure that the wealthiest Americans can now spend 10 times more money on the political process than they did last year. Seriously? This is a problem that we have to solve in order to keep government open?
So over here you got a Wall Street giveaway, and over here you got an opportunity for Wall Street to put more money into the political process. These two provisions bumped into each other somewhere in the middle of the night in the corridors of Capitol Hill up here. They bumped into each other. Maybe they were introduced, and one of them said, "I'll be the quid," and the other one said, "I'll be the quo." And Madam Speaker, I don't know which is which, but I know this is a quid pro quo, and it's the kind of quid pro quo that is corrupting the machinery of our government.
The bill gambles with our financial system. It would reverse Dodd-Frank safeguards, allow banks to engage in some of Wall Street's riskiest transactions, the same transactions that caused a crisis in which millions of hard-working Americans lost their jobs, their homes, and their savings. Why? Why would we want to put families at risk once again? Public funds should be used to protect our families, not to prop up casino banking.
At the same time, this bill provides, of course, billions in war funding. My Republican colleagues included a section that will roll back key provisions of the Dodd-Frank Wall Street Reform Bill, putting taxpayers on the hook for Wall Street gambling.
And that's why I was so really heartbroken. I don't think I've ever said that word on the floor of the House. Heartbroken to see the taint that was placed on this valuable appropriations bill from on high. Congressman Sarbanes said it's quid pro quo. You have quid, give Wall Street what they want. We're being asked to vote for a moral hazard. This is a ransom. This is blackmail. You don't get a bill unless Wall Street gets its taxpayer coverage. So it's really so sad, enormously disappointed that the White House feels that the only way they can get a bill is to go along with this, and that would be the only reason I think they would say they would sign such a bill that would weaken a critical component of financial system reform aimed at reducing taxpayer risk. Those are the words in the administration's statement. I feel sad for the American people today, because we're saying in order for us to invest in the education of our children and all of the responsibilities we have to the American people, we have to pay off Wall Street. But the fact is, my colleagues, you are being asked to put your name next to privatizing the gain and nationalizing the risk.
Out of good conscience, I would not want to stand in support of again going backwards and allowing banks to be engaged in derivatives and having American taxpayers pay for their actions.
Mr. Speaker, this bill puts a big bow on a holiday gift for the Wall Street contributors who get special treatment in the provisions of this bill. Once again, here in the holiday season, it's all about stuffing the silk stockings. And these people want to gamble with our money. When these big banks win, they get to keep all the money. But when they lose, they look to the taxpayer to bail them out. It was wrong to do so before, and this bill removes key reforms that are vital to preserving our financial system and our economic security. We ought not to yield to the big bank contributors who, at the same time, this same bill frees up additional money for individuals to pour into campaigns.
And the gentleman has expired.
And pollute our democracy. I yield back.
Nobody wants to shut down government. Everybody here wants to have an answer, and we could have an answer. All the opposite side has to do is to stop supporting a bill that would allow the biggest banks in America to rip off the people one more time. We bailed out the richest banks in America with the people's money. The people do not want that anymore. And so this provision that's in the bill that would allow them to basically put us all at risk because they want to trade these derivatives and be protected with our FDIC cannot go on. And so there are a lot of other things in this bill that's unacceptable. I am the ranking member of the Financial Services Committee, and I worked on Dodd-Frank. They're trying to undermine Dodd-Frank. They've been trying to get rid of Dodd-Frank piece by piece. We have to fight it every day. I am not going to let the people down. Democrats are not going to let the people down. We're not going to vote for anything that's going to give the store to the biggest banks in America one more time.
The gentlelady has expired.
There are two kinds of people serving here in Congress: those who are here to serve the interests of the American people, and those who are here to serve the interests of the big banks and Wall Street speculators. The big banks that forced the American people to bail them out in 2008 are even bigger today than they were before. And this bill that passed today sets the American taxpayer up to bail them out yet again. The passage of this bill brings us ever closer to the precipice of an economic disaster that will make the 2008 meltdown seem like a picnic.
Many Americans, even today, remain unemployed or underemployed and are still struggling to make ends meet because of the risky behaviors that we saw within the financial industry. However, we must ensure that the necessary and important protections that shield taxpayers and our economy from the failures of 2008 remain in place. I rebuke the slick and secretive ways that this has been done, and I'll echo the concerns of people all over New Jersey that this kind of business as usual must end.
A deal negotiated behind closed doors that slips in a provision that would let derivatives traders on Wall Street gamble with taxpayer money and get bailed out by the government when their risky bets threaten to blow up our financial system. These are the same banks that nearly broke the economy in 2008 and destroyed millions of jobs. The same banks that got bailed out by taxpayers and are now raking in record profits. The same banks that are spending a whole lot of time and money trying to influence Congress to bend the rules in their favor. This morning, senators from both parties, Sherrod Brown, a Democrat from Ohio, and David Vitter, a Republican from Louisiana, called for this provision to be taken out of the spending bill. Conservative activists have jumped in as well. They are raising their voices today to say that this provision has no place in a must-pass spending bill. Here's what one front-page contributor on the conservative blog Red State said this morning. I have no way to refute the basic point that Democrats are making about the CRomnibus fight right now. In fact, I might even go so far as to say They are right.